The cruelest paradox of avoidant psychology is that they can only recognize your worth when you stop offering it to them. While you were there giving everything you had, they took you for granted, dismissed your efforts, and treated your love like an endless resource they could access whenever convenient. But the moment you withdraw completely and stop investing in them, suddenly they can see clearly how valuable you were all along. Your absence becomes the magnifying glass that finally shows them what they had. Scarcity creates value in their psychology. Avoidants are psychologically wired to devalue anything that's readily available to them, including your love and attention. When you were consistently present, caring, and invested, their brain categorized your affection as abundant and therefore worthless. They took your devotion for granted because it felt safe and predictable, like having unlimited access to something they didn't have to work for. The moment you withdraw that availability, their entire value system flips. Suddenly your attention becomes a scarce resource, and scarcity triggers their competitive instincts in ways that abundance never could. They're not suddenly discovering new feelings for you, they're finally able to perceive the value that was always there, but couldn't be seen through the lens of constant availability. Your giving up transforms you from something they could take for granted into something they have to compete for, which activates their chase response that was completely dormant when you were freely offering yourself to them. The withdrawal of your investment makes them realize they were getting premium treatment for discount effort. Your emotional labor becomes visible through its absence. While you were doing all the emotional work to maintain the relationship, they couldn't see the enormous effort you were putting in because your labor was invisible to them. You were remembering important dates, initiating conversations, planning activities, providing emotional support, and maintaining connection while they coasted on your efforts without recognizing them. Only when you stop providing this invisible labor do they realize how much work you were doing to keep the relationship functioning. Your absence forces them to experience what relationships feel like when no one is doing the emotional heavy lifting, and suddenly they understand how much you were contributing. This recognition of your previously invisible effort creates a retroactive appreciation for everything you did that they never noticed or acknowledged. They finally see the relationship infrastructure you built and maintained while they were taking credit for the stability your work created. They experience the natural consequences of their behavior. When you give up and withdraw, they finally experience the natural consequences of their emotional unavailability without you there to buffer or absorb the impact. For the first time, they have to sit alone with the results of their patterns, without your emotional labor softening the blow. This unmediated experience of consequences forces them to connect their behavior to its natural outcomes in ways they never could when you were always there to chase them, forgive them, and restore connection despite their poor treatment. Your absence removes the safety net that prevented them from feeling the full weight of their choices. Without you absorbing the emotional fallout of their avoidant patterns, they're forced to experience the isolation, loneliness, and disconnection that their behavior naturally creates. This raw experience of consequence makes them realize what your presence was protecting them from. Your standards become clear through your departure. While you were with them, they couldn't see your standards clearly because you were accommodating their limitations and working around their emotional unavailability. Your giving up reveals that you actually had standards all along. They just hadn't been enforced until you reached your breaking point. Your departure demonstrates that you won't accept poor treatment indefinitely, that you require reciprocal effort to maintain investment, and that you value yourself enough to walk away from situations that don't meet your needs. These standards were always there, but they couldn't see them until you enforced them through action. This revelation that you have non-negotiable requirements for how you're treated forces them to realize they failed to meet basic relationship standards while assuming you would tolerate anything. Your giving up proves that even the most patient love has limits. They recognize your emotional strength. Your decision to give up despite your feelings demonstrates a level of emotional strength they never recognized while you were accommodating their patterns. They finally see that you weren't staying because you were weak or had no other options. You were staying because you chose to invest in their potential. This recognition of your strength reframes their entire understanding of the relationship dynamic. They realize you weren't desperate or clingy. You were emotionally generous. You weren't staying because you couldn't leave. You were staying because you believed in them. Your giving up proves you always had the strength to leave but chose not to use it. This late recognition of your emotional fortitude makes them realize they lost someone strong who chose to be vulnerable with them, not someone weak who needed them to feel complete. Your replacement proves irreplaceable. When they try to replace what they lost, they discover that your specific combination of understanding, patience, acceptance, and love isn't available anywhere else. Everyone else has normal boundaries, typical expectations, and standard relationship requirements that you had waived for them. This failed replacement attempt makes them realize that what you offered wasn't the baseline they deserved. It was premium treatment they took for granted. Other people won't tolerate their emotional unavailability, won't excuse their patterns, and won't provide the emotional regulation you offered naturally. The comparison between your treatment and everyone else's standard behavior reveals how exceptional your patience and understanding actually were. They discover that most people won't love them through their dysfunction the way you did. They face their own dispensability. Your ability to give up and apparently move on forces them to confront the reality that they weren't as important to you as they assumed. This threatens their self-image as someone so special that others can't stay away from them, revealing that they were more replaceable than they believed. This recognition of their own dispensability in your life creates retroactive appreciation for what they had, while making them realize they weren't as valuable to you as you were to them. The asymmetry of investment becomes clear only after you've withdrawn yours completely. The value recognition comes too late. The tragedy is that this newfound appreciation for your worth arrives only after you've proven they can't take you for granted anymore. They can finally see your value clearly, but this clarity comes at the cost of losing access to what they now recognize as precious. Your giving up becomes the lens through which they can finally see what you offered, but this perfect vision of your worth only becomes available after it's too late to matter. They value you most when they can no longer have you.